Good morning, loves. How are you on this gloomy Saturday, or at least it's gloomy here in the Midwest? Okay, we're trying a little bit of a different space today so that we can get a feel for how this works. So, I am Amber Khan. I'm the Lifestyle Life Coach, and we have been talking all this month about relationships. So, the first week we talked about awareness of our thoughts and how big of an impact those have on our relationships. Last week we talked about expectations and boundaries. This week we're going to talk about probably the most important thing that I could teach you, and that is feelings. So for those of you who remember, and if you don't, this is the model that I talked about. So we'll do a quick review. Can you see that? All right. Everything in life falls into one of these 5 categories. There's circumstances, that's our C. Those are things that happen that are outside of our control. Those are neutral. They are facts. They're things that everybody in the world would agree with. So there's never an adjective. There's never a describing word on that. So the example I'll use is it's 87 degrees outside. Our thoughts, those are our sentences in our brain. Those are our judgments and our perceptions about all the things that happen in the world that are outside of our control. Our thoughts create all of our feelings. Feelings are emotions, right? So I'm talking about something different than a physical sensation like being burned. I'm talking about how these thoughts manifest physically in our bodies. It's one word, so it's something like anger, joy, love. Those are the emotions, and they are physical manifestation of our thoughts in our bodies. Our feelings drive all of our actions, and that's why it's so important to talk about them, because everything we do in life, sorry, that keeps moving. There we go. Everything we do in life is because of a feeling we want to create or avoid. So feelings are super important to understand. Actions are how we show up in the world. That's what we choose to do. It's the things that either things that we do or don't do. So inaction counts as an action too, and those create all of our results. So here's some of the thought errors that usually happen. Most of us think that our feelings come directly from the circumstances in our lives that are outside of our control. So we think that since we're talking about relationships this week, we think that circumstances that happen, like how our spouse or our partner behaves, if they did or didn't do something, directly causes our feelings. But let me just tell you, my friends, that is never true. Circumstances are always neutral. It's always how we think about the circumstances, how we interpret it, that causes our feelings. All right? So I want you guys to take just a second to let that sink in, because people think that feelings are wishy-washy and woo-woo, but I'm telling you, everything we do in life is because of a feeling we want to create or avoid, right? Oh, good morning. I see I have a couple of friends on here. Give me a thumbs up or a heart in the comment, or say good morning in the little comments. So, why are feelings important in relationships? The reason that they're so important is because we often expect our partners, our spouses, our bosses, our kids, we think that it's how they act that causes our feelings. And my loves, that is not the case. I feel like a broken record. I've said that a million times, but it's so important to understand. I don't know if you've ever heard the concept of love languages, but there's a book called The 5 Love Languages, and let's see if I can remember them. So it's acts of service, words of affirmation, physical touch, gifts, and quality time. Not everybody speaks the same love language. And this is important to us in our relationships because it's a great example of how this model works in our lives, and how you show up in your relationship and the love language that is yours might be interpreted completely different by someone who speaks a different love language. So let's use an example. If, say, my love language is acts of service, and I want my partner to know how much I love them, I will maybe do dishes and laundry. So the circumstance that is that I have a partner, my thought is that I want my partner to know that I love them. My feeling is love, or maybe even it's committed. So the action that I take is I do dishes and laundry. And the result is I think I'm showing my partner that I love them. But, you see that? There you go. Is that backwards for you guys? It's backwards, isn't it? I'll figure that out next time. So my act of service, me and the dishes that I do, that action just becomes a circumstance in my partner's life. So the circumstance would be the spouse did dishes and laundry, and the thought might be, she never spends enough quality time with me. The feeling they might have is neglect or resentment. Feelings are always one word. Now, I know that a lot of us get all up in our feelings. We have feels all the time, right? We do this model one at a time. So the thought might be that she never spends enough time with me because my love language is quality time. The feeling then might be resentment or neglect or disappointment. So the action would be, fine, I'll show her. I'll give her the silent treatment. If she doesn't want to spend quality time with me, I'll go off and do my own thing. So that's how, because I'm feeling this way, I'm showing up in the relationship. And what's the result? The result always proves the thought that we're not spending quality time together. Our thoughts create all of our results. They create all of our feelings. Like, you guys, this is such a big deal. If you have a pen and paper, get it out. We're going to do some work. Okay. So, since we've had a little bit of a brief introduction to how the feelings fit in the model, I want you to just take a second, close your eyes, and think about how you're feeling right now. Like, what feeling, one word, could you describe your emotions with? If you have a pen and paper, write that down. Give it a name. So this is the first step to taking ownership for our feelings, is to first of all recognize that they're there and give them a name. A lot of people feel guilty if they don't feel happy all the time. Because I love you guys, I just want to tell you, that's complete bullshit. It's not how the world works. It's 50-50, okay? That's how the human experience is supposed to go. 50% of the time, we're feeling good. 50% of the time, we've got negative emotions happening, okay? It doesn't mean something's gone wrong. We have this weird perception that we should be happy all of the time. Our society teaches us that, right? If you're not happy, share a Coke with a friend, right? It's everywhere. But that's just not how it works. So if you understand that and recognize that, we talked about awareness of our thoughts. Now I want to talk about awareness of our feelings. So give your feeling a name. And the next thing I want you to do is feel how that shows up in your body. So when I am angry, you see this face. It's not pretty, I'm saying. But when I'm super mad, I can feel my shoulders tense, my chest gets warm, my heart beats fast, my mouth gets dry. My eyebrows are always furrowed. Sometimes I know it's not pretty, I'm just saying. But feelings show up in our body because of a thought that we're thinking. So however you feel right now, what are you thinking? Take a second to think about what thought is causing that feeling. So maybe you're feeling resentful of me this morning for starting my live at 7:30 in the morning. How does that show up in your body? Do you have this scrunchy face too? Don't do that, it's not pretty. Okay, so here is, let me back up just a second. One of the most important lessons we can learn with feelings is to feel them. And I'm sure y'all thinking, yeah, duh, I feel them all the time. I'm all up in my feelings. So what do I mean by that? a lot of times, because we aren't happy all the time, we feel bad about that, and we kind of try and push those negative emotions away. But feelings are a signal. And a lot of times, because we have a feeling, that is how our thoughts are showing up in our body, right? And it is telling us something. But what we don't do often enough is we don't pay attention to those feelings. We don't just sit with them. So what happens if we're not just sitting with them? Excuse me. We do what we call buffering. I myself have been guilty of this my whole life. I buffer with shopping or eating. A lot of people buffer with drinking or drugs, shopping, spending, all of the things. And what buffering is you don't want to accept or you don't enjoy the feeling that you have right now. So you're going off and doing something else to get a quick hit of dopamine, a quick hit of happiness, a quick hit of feel good. The problem with that is that a little bit never goes very far, and your brain's like, oh, this is the best thing in the whole world. So the more you eat, the more you eat. The more you drink, the more you drink. The more you shop, the more you shop. Because your brain continues to want to get those dopamine hits. So, and that's fine. That's totally normal. Nothing has gone wrong here. Your brain is wired to do 3 things, and it is kick ass at them. It is always wired to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and conserve energy. So this is our caveman shit, right? Avoiding pain is please don't die, don't get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. Seek pleasure, go in the cave, stay in the cave. It's nice and warm in there, right? And conserve energy. Like if you do have to run from a saber-toothed tiger, you better have a lot of energy. So it forms habits. It does things to make us efficient at what we do to save energy. What is the problem with that, my loves? We're not cavemen anymore. And I know some of you will say that we know people who still act like cavemen. But the reality is our brains evolved to be so sophisticated that it helped us survive. And they haven't caught up with where we are as humans now. So let's go back to what we were talking about, buffering and feeling the feelings. So I'll give you an example. I'll make one up. Let's say you are super unhappy in your job. And you are so unhappy that you are always eating. You feel bored or you feel angry at your job, so you go to the vending machine and get a snack. When you get home, you're so frustrated with your job that you go straight to the pantry, and you're always eating to get rid of that shitty feeling because you hate that job. What you're doing is you're just pushing away the inevitable. You are ignoring the signal that your brain is giving you that it's time to make a change. So the longer that you buffer and don't feel that feeling, the longer you go without making that change. So how do I feel the feelings? All right, fine. I'll feel the feelings. Amber, what does that look like? Unfortunately, sometimes it's just enjoy them when they're the good ones. But a lot of times it just means sit with it. I know it sucks. Trust me, I am not a fan of sitting with it. But one of the best neutralizing activities that you can do when you're trying to sit with a feeling is to, if you've ever meditated, they call it a body scan, is to do a body scan and think about what you're feeling and how it's showing up in our bodies. Because, and this is one of the best tricks that I have, so how those show up in our body, it's what we did before. When you feel angry or frustrated, think of a map of your body and go through like, okay, I'm angry, my face is pinched, my shoulders are hunched. So it takes you out of your primitive brain and into your prefrontal cortex. That activity just makes you be purposeful, and immediately it starts to help dissipate the intensity of the feelings. Doesn't mean they go away. Look, sometimes you're stuck with the shitty feelings. However, another trick that you can use is journaling. And I'm not talking about Dear Diary, today I went to work and it was a poopy day. I'm talking about what we call a thought download. And it is literally pulling out the junk drawer of your mind and dumping all that shit out. Okay, so it's messy, it's ugly, it's not a story that you're going to produce for some daytime television, okay? It is, and if you don't know where to start with this. I am angry because ... You give your brain a problem to solve, it's going to tell you the story. And just let the thoughts flow out of your brain. I do this on my iPad. I have a journal app. You can do it on paper. You can do it however you want to do. But when you get it physically out of your head and onto paper or a screen, it becomes something that you can manage in a whole different way than you would manage if you keep that hidden in your brain. So in the first week, we talked about the two super important things, curiosity and compassion. And I really want you guys to keep this in mind. If you start to journal, I want you to look at all of those thoughts and feelings with curiosity and compassion. No beating ourselves up because we shouldn't feel a certain way, or because we don't like a way that we're feeling, because we think that makes us a bad person. That's just crap. It doesn't make us a bad person. It just makes us a person. Remember, the human experience is 50-50, okay? So once you get that out of your head, look at those thoughts and understand how they're creating your feelings, because I promise you they are. So, Heaven, I want to move on to my next, I want to hand you the keys to your castle. The next thing I want to tell you is something that was profound to me. No one in the world can hurt your feelings but you. I'm going to say that again. Nobody in the world can hurt your feelings but you. Okay, so how does that show up in our lives? We often blame the other people in our lives and their behaviors for how we're feeling. So we always think, well, I'm mad because my boss was a jerk. What we're really mad for is because we think our boss should not say the things that they say or do the things that they do. It has nothing to do with how the boss works. Remember, I got my little East Coast accent going there for a minute, how the boss works. Unfortunately, I don't really have an East Coast accent, so I can't even stick with that for more than one syllable. Let's go again. Okay, so how other people show up in their lives, that's what you got. That's how they show up. You can't change that. Even if you don't like it, and you don't have to like it, but we're grown-ass folks. We get to do what we want to do, right? All right. But when you say that your boss or your spouse or your kids cause your feelings, you're giving away all of your power. Stop doing that. Knock that off. Take that power back, because you need that. That belongs to you. No one can make you feel any way. You get to choose. The problem is you have to choose. You don't get to blame someone for making you feel bad. That's all on you. Again, you don't have to like other people's behavior, but they're just a circumstance in your life. How you think about it is all on you. Your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions, those are all you. So hold on, I'm just gonna look down at my notes. Oh yeah, okay. So, does anybody have any questions? I know I talk a lot and I talk fast, so if you have, if I'm going too fast, you can feel free to mention something in the comments. Ooh, I don't know how to do this, so I made something up here that I didn't want to. Whoops, sorry about that. All right, so I'm gonna keep going. Let me turn the page. I'm looking at my notes because I have so much that I want to tell you guys. I want to make sure I don't forget anything. It's like super important. And if my friend David is watching, he just cringed because I licked my finger before I turned the page. I promise, David, nobody is touching this notebook but me. All right. Oh man. Okay. So that's what I got today. I want to talk about the 50-50. I want to talk about responsibility for your feelings. And I want to talk about understanding the different interpretations of people's actions. So let's talk about, here's the most important part. Duh. One of these days I'm going to get like super amazing at this live stuff. I'm going to have it down to a science. But right now I got like notebook paper, okay? So why are feelings so important? If no one can make me feel anything, if I'm 100% responsible for my feelings, then how do I feel what I want to feel? You get to create those feelings. I'm going to tell you, it's because of the thoughts that you have, so you have to think on purpose. Thinking on purpose is sometimes difficult because We don't always believe our thoughts, and then that kind of messes with your mind. It turns it into scrambled eggs. So you have to figure out thoughts that you believe, and your brain is a muscle. Flex the muscle, get some muscle memory, and repeat the thoughts that you want to think on purpose instead of allowing the thoughts that just pop into your brain and not arguing with them. Since we're talking about relationships, let's talk about feeling sexy, because that's super fun for me. So we think that our partners make us feel sexy or not sexy, make us feel desired or not desired. That's totally wrong. For example, my husband is super great with the compliments. He compliments me all the time. And if he says, hey, baby, you look sexy, I can take that however I want. I can go, oh, no, I'm having a fat day. I totally don't look sexy. I'm gross. I'm not into it. Or I can think, hell yeah, I am. Let's get it on. Generally, well, never mind. We won't talk about generally. Suffice it to say, that's all on me. He's doing the behavior that one might expect from a partner, right? He's saying the nice thing, and we think that will make us feel sexy, but that is not where it is. It's all up here. So what if your partner never says that, and you're not supposed to depend on someone outside you to create your feelings? How do you do that, right? You have to practice thinking the things that work for you. So if I want to feel sexy, I start to think things like, my husband loves me just the way I am. I look great. My body is exactly what it's supposed to be. I'm super hot. I'm smoking hot. Sometimes I practice all of those things. Sometimes I even do things that make me think sexy thoughts, like I'll turn on some songs or some music that help get my brain in the right frame of mind. So then I'm totally responsible for all of those feelings. The pressure is off my partner. He never has to worry that what he's going to say is going to make me feel anything or make me not feel what I want to feel, because it's not on him, it's on me. So he can show up as his authentic self in our relationship. It's the same with our friends. It's the same with our bosses. It's the same with our kids. When we stop expecting them to create the feelings that we want, they get to show up however they show up, and they know that we will accept them or love them just the way they are. Okay, so let's talk about creating a different feeling. I often get people say that they just want to feel loved. So I will give you a tip. If you want to feel loved, all you have to do is think loving thoughts. Yeah, no, let that sink in. Somebody doesn't have to tell you they love you. What if they don't speak your love language? What if acts of service is not their love language and it's quality time? If you want to feel love, you think about all the people in your life that you love. Think about the things in your life that you love to do. Think about a time where you have felt the most loved. I guarantee it will cause a physical change in your brain and in your body on how you're feeling when you change your thoughts. One last thing, and then I'm going to hop off of here because I know it's super early on Sunday morning, and I totally just lost my train of thought. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to come back with a PS. Oh, I know what I was going to say. All right, I knew it would get me, or I would get it in just a second. So, you don't always have to change your thoughts from negative to positive. In fact, that doesn't really work. Remember, we're not supposed to be happy all the time. So if you find yourself feeling a lot of negative thoughts, accept that. But if we're gonna accept that life is 50-50, choose the 50% of uncomfortable or negative emotions that get you closer to your goal. What do I mean by that? If you are afraid to try, be afraid and do it anyway. Do it scared. There's a book called Do It Scared. That's kind of been my mantra lately. Do it scared. Like this right now, when I first started thinking about going live, I was like, oh my God, and then I'm gonna be there and people are going to be watching me. It's going to be weird. And what if I get a booger? I don't know. But do it scared. Because even if I'm apprehensive or afraid or self-conscious, I'm choosing the 50% negative that gets me closer to my goal, as opposed to sitting and sulking or overeating and feeling awful about myself. If you get to choose, and you do, because nobody is responsible for your feelings but you, choose the good ones, choose the thoughts that get you there, and choose the negative ones that get you closer to your goals. All right, for sure that's it this time. Okay, next week we're going to talk about lovability and unconditional love. Okay? I know that's crazy. Most of us think we already understand how lovable we are or aren't, but that's where we're going to wrap up, and then we'll have an entirely new segment in November. In November, we're going to start talking about handling anxiety, because I know the holidays are when everybody starts to get super anxious, and I don't want you guys to deal with that all on your own. I'm going to give you some tips. We're going to talk about that. I also know that 7:30 on Sunday morning is not the best time for all of you folks who I love so much. It's good for me because my kids are still sleeping, and I try and get this done before everybody wakes up and piles on. But leave me a comment on my Facebook page at The Lifestyle Life Coach, and let me know some times that might work better for you. When are you scrolling the Facebooks and you might be interested in watching a video? So I'm also going to ask you, if you're watching, to check my Instagram out at The Lifestyle Life Coach, check my Facebook out at The Lifestyle Life Coach. And if this works for you, if any of this resonates with you, if you want to know more, if you want to get control over your thoughts and your feelings, I would love to work with you. Send me an email at coach@thelifestylelifecoach.com. Oh, let's see. I have some questions. Hello. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Lisa. Do I have favorite journal apps? So I know a lot of, let me hit see more. Okay, so I use an app called My Journal, and it is just blank sheets of paper. I have a lot of people who use the Notes app in their phone, or they use Evernote. Evernote is a super popular one. The reason that I like the My Journal app, and I'm going to be honest, I can't find it anymore. So I don't know if I just have it because I've had an iPad for so long, or maybe I can't find it because I already have it, but the My Journal app lets you pick a picture as a background, and there's a bunch of different fonts, and I like that because it makes me feel like I'm being creative, even if I'm giving myself a little bit of grief for what's going on. So I like that app, but anything will do that lets you type. Any other questions? Let me scroll up. I don't see anything else. All right. Okay, well, I look forward to hearing from all of you. I can't wait to talk to you again next week. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I love you. Bye-bye. As soon as I figure out